come together and connect with each other, share their experiences, learn and grow in their respective fields. This initiative will also provide a platform for the female STEM professional to share their knowledge and experiences with the younger generation and to mentor and support them in their development. So I am thankful for both of the sponsors, and now I would like to introduce the speakers for today's webinar. We have with us Madam Reshma Singh. She is a senior advisor at the US Department of Energy's Building Technologies Office, currently at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. She leads the Technology to Market, IMPEL, and Cradle to Commerce Incubation Energies. She previously managed the Presidential US India Center for Building Energy Research and Development and the California Commission R2M2 microgrids programs. Ms. Reshma Singh brings over 10 years of experience advancing urban sustainability and clean tech innovations and working with complex international ecosystem in the US, India, and Singapore. She holds 2 clean tech patents and she is a lead author of Building Innovation Guide Transforming India's Built Environment, and along with so many other awards to her credit. I welcome today's first speaker, Ms. Reshma Singh, to please share your screen and give an insight into the topic of climate change and its effect on the areas like Pakistan.
Thank you so much, Amara, for that lovely introduction. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. And I would request whoever's not speaking to please go ahead and mute yourself. I think there is some background noise here. Maybe the hosts can go ahead and mute a few people. They may have forgotten to mute yourself. I'll wait for that to happen. Amara, are you able to go and mute folks who are not speaking? Great, thank you so much. Wonderful. It is lovely to meet everybody. It is about 9 o'clock at night here in California from where I'm speaking. And I am in Berkeley, California, which is very close to San Francisco area. So good evening to everybody from California. And it's wonderful to be here and meet all of you. Assalamu alaikum. And hope to have a great discussion today. So today my talk is going to be on the park climate of Pakistan. As you know that Pakistan, the word Pakistan comes from the word Pak, which means pure, clean, and Stan is a land, right? So it's a land of the pure. But there are many new developments which have been happening since the past 3 or 4 decades, I would say, especially, that have led to a few different things happening, which have led to the Park of Pakistan to become a little bit more challenged. So I'm going to go ahead, and if you can give me screen sharing, please, I can go ahead and share my screen and talk through a few slides, and I would love to also hear from you on any questions that you may have or any suggestions and comments you might have. So Mara, I'm not able to share my screen currently.
I have enabled it, madam. Check it again, please.
Not happening.
Now you try, please.
Okay, great. Now it's happening. Wonderful. Okay, great. So getting into slideshow mode. So as I mentioned, the talk today is on the climate of Pakistan. And I'll talk for about 15, 20 minutes. And I want to also open it up for discussion because this is meant to be a time and a space where we can all work together to create an answer, an opportunity, and be responsive to what's happening in the climate in Pakistan. So as you know that as Amara mentioned, that I'm a program director at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory here in California, and I'm also a senior advisor to the U.S. Department of Energy. My work really focuses on taking climate technologies towards market adoption and towards climate impact. So I was looking when Amara asked me to provide this conversation, I was looking for a few key elements around data in terms of what is happening with the climate in Pakistan. So Pakistan is responsible for less than 1% of the world's emissions, which is great. But the issue is not just the fact it's 1%, but the problem is that there is actually a rapid increase. As you can see, the slope of this graph is very high, which means it is increasing at a very, very rapid pace of 9% per year. And also, according to the Global Climate Risk Index, Pakistan is the 8th most vulnerable nation to the climate crisis. So many people say that, if we're responsible for only 1%, why should we be bearing the brunt of the climate crisis? But that's just the reality. The planet is one whole. You can't use technologies in one place or burn crops in one place and expect that there will be no other repercussions or issues in another part of the planet. So my point to you here is that even though we might not be the ones who are creating the problems, it is important to create the solution because the planet is one undivided whole. So we also know that in terms of the overall air pollution, local air pollution, Pakistan does rank 4th in the most polluted countries. And if you look at the air that is being breathed in Lahore, Peshawar, Islamabad, etc., you'll see that there is many, many orders of magnitude above safe limits. So Lahore was the most heavily polluted city in the world in 2022. It had even overtaken New Delhi. And this is really due to issues such as vehicular emissions, which have fuel adulteration, industrial pollution, fossil fuel-fired power plants, also burning of waste materials such as crops and also coal being burned. And of course, because of infrastructure development to build highways and underpasses and overpasses in the cities, there is also a loss of tree cover. So because of all of these kind of issues, the common man, every single person is being affected in a very bad way. This is not just about overall climate. This is about local air pollution and local health and wellness for every person in every family. And also, in terms of the overarching issues, there have been more and more frequent weather events, extreme weather events. For example, the flooding in Pakistan last year, which is a very unfortunate thing that happened. You can see the before picture on the left-hand side, and you can see the after picture on the right-hand side. And you can see that how in Gudpur, the river completely flooded over. It has led to a lot of loss in property and lives and families and schools and homes and infrastructure. And each of these extreme weather events costs $10 billion to rebuild. So we can't afford to create this problem about local air pollution, about local loss of life, and also these extreme weather events. I think it is a huge problem that we need to really tackle today. So the problem is also that while policymakers and government talks about the big policy issues. So, for example, Pakistan has a mandate to dramatically reduce the carbon emissions by 2050. In fact, the world has a mandate. Currently, in 2020, just a couple of years ago, the total emissions was about 34 gigatons of CO2. And the biggest emissions are power sector, industry sector, transport, buildings, etc. And the targets that countries have is that we want to get to zero, net zero emissions by 2050, which means that we don't not only need to have the right technologies, but we also need to have the right policies and the right investments, etc. And if you look at the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, there are 17 SDGs, as they're called. But if you look at the overall picture, close to half of them have some sort of integration and alignment with climate. So, for example, we talk about poverty. Poverty and climate are very deeply linked, because if you're going to have loss in homes, loss in infrastructure, loss in jobs, it definitely leads to poverty. It also leads to loss in good health and well-being. And so, if we really want to completely change this, we have to bring in affordable and clean energy. We have to create the right green jobs for creating work and economic growth. We have to bring in new industry, infrastructure, and innovation so we can create sustainable cities and communities. And really, this is the answer to tackling climate action. So the SDGs are really bringing together a lot of very crucial issues to the forefront. So let's talk about energy. So energy is one of the main causes. The use of energy is the main cause of climate emissions. So if you think about just the way history has played out, right? There has been Takshila in Pakistan. There have been other like very old civilizations. And actually, if you could even go back further, you'll see that in the history of man, where did man appear? I think human beings really appeared in a very small part of Africa. And if you look at, the theories of evolution, it is pretty apparent that animals who are big and strong are the ones who are on the top of the food chain. But human beings were never the strongest, never the biggest, but they're the one species that was able to really migrate all over the world and become the most dominant species. It was able to dominate over all of the other bigger, stronger species, such as the lions and the tigers and the elephants and the mammoths. Now, why did this happen? I think it is my belief that while all the other animals used mechanical energy, basically, when birds build nests or beavers build dams or cheetahs run very fast, they're only using mechanical energy. But human beings are the first ones who actually put two sticks together and rub two stones together to make fire. So for the first time, it was not just about mechanical energy, it was also about new sources of energy, such as fossil fuels, such as now renewables. And the more the human beings have spread all over the planet and have become the most dominant species, they have found new and new ways of harnessing energy, and not just harnessing energy for the sake of building their homes and buildings and bridges and hospitals and all the computational, right? All the computation with AI and everything. The issue is there's a lot of greed and we're using more and more and more energy. So energy is now the cause of 80% of emissions. And therefore, I think having a very close look at energy is really important. So my vision for Pakistan, if you would let me really share a vision with you, is that we really want to get to the same net zero paradigm. So Pakistan has a net zero um, goal, but I want to add a second goal, which is a net zero environment, not just for the sake of climate, but because it promotes equitable wellness and resilience, which means we're talking about equity, which is economic growth for everyone, wellness, which is about health, and resilience, which is basically to be decreasing the amount of climate events and making sure that we're resilient to climate change. So this graphic is something that I feel is really interesting because it talks about this net zero environment that we can produce because of three drivers, and I call them the three Ds. The first D is decarbonize. Decarbonize means you dramatically reduce the carbon emissions. The second D is democratize. Democratize means it's about the people. We need the people to participate. We need every person as a citizen in Pakistan to participate in the investments, in the technology, in becoming better skilled, in becoming having a better human capital so we can work towards equitable wellness and resilience. And finally, the third D is digitalize. There's nothing possible without digital transformation. If we did not have Zoom, if we did not have digital tools, we would have not even been able to work through the COVID crisis, right? So it is very important to bring digital solutions that can smartly connect our buildings, our energy resources, our people, and our businesses. So to really tackle climate in order to really tackle climate change, we need to think about these three drivers: decarbonize, democratize, and digitalize. And the way to do this is by looking at who are the different people who need to be involved. Of course, there's people who are doing R&D and innovation. So academic institutes such as yours, we need to have better R&D for better ways of doing new climate technologies. Of course, technology is really important. The investments that we need to somehow formulate, and then making sure that we talk to the policymakers so they're doing the right climate policies, as well as we need to upskill all of our youth and older citizens to become members of the green economy. So I want you to think of this as an opportunity. So we need the power of the youth and the power of innovation to make sure that we can tackle the climate crisis by really pushing on the innovation piece. So we have a program, an incubation engine, which is funded by the US Department of Energy. It is called Impel. And you can have a look at our website, impel.lbl.gov. And I put these faces here because I want you to think that these are regular citizens. These are people of different colors, people that come from different walks of life. They're young, they're old, but they all have one mission. They want to tackle the climate crisis. And why I'm sharing these faces with you here is because I want you to also become one of these faces. I want you to start the innovation ecosystem so we can develop the right climate technologies in Pakistan for Pakistan so we can get rid of all of the huge climate issues that we are facing there. Here I'm going to give you some examples of what are these climate technologies, right? So as I mentioned that there are three Ds. So the first D is I'm going to give you examples of how we can have climate solutions that will be able to decarbonize. Decarbonize means we need to bring down the carbon emissions. So the first example on the left-hand side is actually a 22-year-old young boy who basically said there's a lot of glass, when you have old glass that goes into trash, they patented a way they patented a way whereby they could extract glass and recycle it. It would become a part of concrete, and they are developing new structures out of concrete by using recycled glass. So recycling is an important aspect of decarbonization. Another example is in Wentworth. So as you know, steel is a huge industry for buildings and for bridges. So this particular company has found a way which uses a honeycomb structure, and it makes wood become as strong as steel. So you can totally remove steel from the buildings and you can construct buildings made completely of wood, just like we used to in the old times. And they have received $20 million in funding from the US Department of Energy. So the reason I'm explaining these examples to you is because if you do the right type of innovation for climate, it is possible to also become prosperous because you're creating green jobs and you're creating innovation that'll create value for everybody. Another example uh, in terms of decarbonized solutions is AeroShield, where they've essentially made a new window technology. And this window technology is essentially made of insulating glass, and it actually helps to reduce the amount of heat coming into the buildings. When you reduce the amount of heat coming into your house, you will decrease the air conditioning load, and that also leads to more energy efficiency. So these are examples of decarbonize. Similarly, we have um, success stories and examples of how young innovators and entrepreneurs have really started to use online platforms to sell new building material and new energy systems and create new technologies for democratization as well as digitalization. So I will just give you these examples as ways that all of you can think about, like, where can I be part of the climate discussion? How can I have the right innovation? And how can I actually raise the funding and become an entrepreneur so I can really tackle the climate? So again, you can lead the climate transformation and really impel Pakistan to a net zero and prosperous future. So I'll end my talk here by saying that the park climate of Pakistan can be brought. So let us tackle climate crisis together. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Reshma Singh, for such an informative talk. Uh, I'm really grateful. Excuse me, please. You, okay. Thank you so much, Reshma. From the participants, any one of you, if want to ask something about this topic recently explained to you, please come up with your question first. Raise your hands, and I will let you ask your question, please.
Maybe Amara, I can ask a question for everybody.
Yes,
तो अगर आप बुरा ना माने तो मैं उर्दू में बात कर सकती हूँ ताकि आसानी से कॉन्वर्सेशन हो सके.
जी जी श्योर श्योर यू कैन टॉक आप उर्दू में बात कर सकती हैं मोस्ट वेलकम फॉर दैट
थैंक यू. तो मुझे आप सबसे बस यही सवाल था कि आपको लगता है कि क्लाइमेट क्राइसिस काफी इशू क्रिएट कर रहा है पाकिस्तान में और आपको लगता है कि आप कुछ करना चाहेंगे इसके बारे में?
Uh, Good morning, Miss Reshma Singh. Actually, I'm trying to speak, but I don't know why I was not able to turn on my speaker on the camera. So really, it's a very nice talk, and I'm so inspired, and I'm so happy that Amara has selected one of the best speaker who knows about the Pakistan so deeply. I was thinking that from our, someone from Pakistan is speaking about the Pakistan. Thank you for this best analysis. Let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Bushra Nisar Khan, one of the co-organizer of this seminar. And I am the colleague of Amara Dar, and I am also the friend of Amara Dar. I am working in the field of zoology and especially in biodiversity conservation. And one thing that is जानवरों की बात की तो वो भी मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा. तो जो मोस्ट इंस्पायरिंग थिंग है मिस रेशमा रिगार्डिंग योर टॉक दैट 3Ds आपने 3Ds इंट्रोड्यूस कराए हैं दे आर इंस्पायरिंग. रियली अगर सारे लोग इन 3Ds को ही लेके तो बहुत अच्छे इससे रिजल्ट्स आ सकते हैं। और आई एम सो हैप्पी आपने जो खास स्पेशली जो आपने डीकार्बनाइज्ड के लिए डिफरेंट एग्जांपल्स कोट की हैं और लोगों को और हमारे बच्चों को हमारे लिसनर्स को बताया कि कैसे द यंग जो हमारी यूथ है, दिस इज द पावर। अगर we चाहें तो they can create the magic, they can change the each and everything. Once again, I'm so glad, I'm so happy, and I'm so thankful to you for this wonderful talk.
शुक्रिया बुशरा जी, दैट्स वेरी स्वीट ऑफ यू। मुझे लगता है कि अगर कोई चेंज कर सकता है किसी चीज को तो आप जैसे लीडर्स हैं, और जिन बच्चों को आप पढ़ाते हैं, यू कैन इंस्पायर देम, एंड आई थिंक दैट it is not lost. I think if we act together, we can create change, we can create political pressure, and we can really create this ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship, because उसी से वो fertile space बनेगा जिससे पाकिस्तान में बदलाव और change आ सकता है. So I'm very optimistic this can happen, but I think that will have to be led and brought together by leaders such as yourself and Amara and others.
Anyone from the participants if want to ask some question?
और if you अगर participants में से कोई person बोलना नहीं चाहता तो आप chat box में भी अपना रेशमा सिंह के साथ आप बात करके अपने अपने ख्यालात का या जो आप कहना चाहते हैं, जो आप पूछना चाहते हैं, उसके लिए आप चैट बॉक्स में मैसेज छोड़ सकते हैं।
बिल्कुल, मुझे अभी चैट आया है कि जफर अली जी हैं, DD Environment PMO from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And I want to know, maybe if you don't mind sharing your opinion, if since you are looking at the environment PMO there, तो आपका क्या तजुर्बा रहा है, और like what is your path forward for really tackling the climate and environment issues there? Just want to hear from you if you don't mind sharing.
जी, जफर अली साहब जिन्होंने क्वेश्चन किया है, इफ यू कैन प्लीज कम अप, आप डायरेक्ट बात करना चाहें प्लीज।
शायद वो नहीं है अभी जूम पे। So I guess I can ask you another question is कि पाकिस्तान में कोई incubation system है, and I know there's a couple of questions, but I want to focus also on entrepreneurship and incubation in climate technologies. ऐसा कोई example है जो अभी है पाकिस्तान में, or is there any need or desire for that?
I think from the participants, Vakar want to ask question. He has raised hand, and second one is Kamal. I think Vakar, you can come up with the question, please.
Yes, first of all, we thank you for taking such a worthwhile initiative. However, we acknowledge that Pakistan is experiencing local or national weather problems due to the rising temperature and less regular weather cycle than is ideal. So, इसमें मेरा कुछ ये भी इनपुट है कि जो चीज़ें अभी हम फेस कर रहे हैं, उन चीज़ों में जो है वो ग्लोबल लेवल पे भी कुछ चीज़ें हुई हैं जिनका इम्पैक्ट जो है यहाँ पे भी हम फेस कर रहे हैं, और जिसकी वजह से ये सारे के सारे प्रॉब्लम्स यहाँ पे हो रहे हैं। शायद हमारा इनपुट यहाँ पे इतना नहीं है जितना ओवरऑल ग्लोब पे चीज़ें हो रही हैं, उन चीज़ों का ज़्यादा इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहा है यहाँ पे, हमारे डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज पे। तो इस पे क्या क्या कुछ इनपुट देंगी आप मैम?
Sure. ये actually this was my first slide, Vakar ji, क्योंकि as I mentioned that जो climate emissions जो पाकिस्तान के जरिए हो रहे हैं, that's only 1% of total world emissions, but the planet is one unified system. So we can't, I feel like wherever you are in the world, everybody has a role to play and has a responsibility. And at whatever level you want to address climate, you should have the right investment and right policy for doing that. And I think the youth, if they come in with entrepreneurship, then it is not just a matter of, oh my God, we have to, tackle the climate crisis. This can actually lead to a lot of innovation, a lot of economic growth in the country. So I think of it as an opportunity rather than kind of continuing along the path of saying, "Nee, country X or country Y has created more emissions, so why should we do something?" So I feel like if all of us take ownership and use this as a tremendous opportunity for growth and innovation, why not use it?
I
Agreed.
agree, Ms. Reshma. Sorry, sir, please आप continue करिए, फिर मैं बोलती हूँ, आप बोलिए.
नहीं, मेरा बस यही इनपुट था और मैं टोटली एग्री हूँ मैम ने जो भी इनपुट दिया है, सो प्लीज कंटिन्यू.
थैंक यू जी. मिस रेशमा, मैं आपकी बात से बिल्कुल एग्री कर चाहिए कि वो कर रहा है तो हम तो नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो व्हाई शुड वी बी द पार्ट ऑफ दिस क्लीन एंड क्लियर. ये है कि वो तमाम डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज जो पोल्यूशन का, सॉलिड वेस्ट का और बहुत सारे मटेरियलिज्म, मॉडर्निज्म के हैं, अराउंड द ग्लोब दुनिया को उठा है. मैंने लास्ट ईयर एक सेमिनार के लेक्चर के लिए कुछ रिसर्च इकट्ठे किए, तो मैंने देखा कि जो डेवलप है उस पैकिंग मटीरियल का 5 मिनट के बाद एक बच्चे की डेथ, न्यूबॉर्न की डेथ का बाइस बनता है. तो यकीनन हर बंदे को, हर कंट्री को अपने अपने लेवल पे इसके लिए काम करना चाहिए, लेकिन कुछ ऐसी पॉलिसीज भी इन कंट्री पे इम्प्लीमेंट होनी चाहिए जो कि इतना ज्यादा डेंजर क्रिएट कर रही हैं. मैं तो ये सोचती हूँ कि कुछ इनके ऊपर भी कोई लॉ इन्फोर्समेंट होनी चाहिए, कुछ चेक एंड बैलेंस होना चाहिए, क्योंकि तमाम जो चीजें आती वो उठती तो इन मॉडर्न कंट्रीज की तरफ ही है ना.
Comment. I'm Dr. Jamil from Lahore, Pakistan. Can you listen me, please?
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर. अभी हम आपको इनवाइट करते हैं प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर जमील अनवर. ही इज द सेकंड स्पीकर ऑफ टुडेज वेबिनार. Sir, Madam Reshma has actually completed her talk, and someone from the audience and participants, they wanted to ask the question, so we are actually
Okay.
to that session.
I thought that general discussion is going on.
Thank you. Okay, Kamal, you can ask your question from Ms. Reshma, please.
All right, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
जी बिल्कुल.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reshma, for the great presentation. Actually, I have two questions to ask her. You talk about the flood situation in Pakistan, and you mentioned the actual cause is climate change. I want to ask about your suggestions. What's your suggestions about that? As you mentioned that the factories, industries, and development is the main cause of climate change. So how we cannot stop that if we want to develop our country, and what are your suggestions how we can tackle with these things? The second question is there any steps taken from your team or from your side? Like if you mention a website, I just go through it, impel.lbl.gov. What about any steps taken by this in Pakistan, or if anyone want to join something like that? So what will the steps? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your questions, Kamal Saab. So I think if I take your first question about this tension between development and negative impact on the land and on climate. So I think that when population goes up, right, you have to have urban development happen, but it needs to be done in a way that is optimal. So for example, this unnecessary cutting down of trees, or human beings की greed भी होती कि बड़ा करे बड़ा करे बड़ा करे. So I think the most important thing is to have really good zoning and bylaws, so that, for example, you don't cut down certain areas of land that you conserve, especially the land around the rivers, right, which are in the 100-year floodplains. So it's really important to have very strong policy around where development can happen and to what extent it can happen, and how do we make sure that we bring in the right land development and planning policy. So वो बहुत important चीज़ है कि development और climate में tension नहीं होनी चाहिए. दूसरी चीज़ आपने कहा कि I mean, this is just an example for your question number one. This is it's a very deep topic, and we can talk for hours on that. I'm just giving you one example. For the second thing about Impel, Impel is really it's an incubator that we run through the U.S. Department of Energy, and we are trying to impel climate technologies. And so right now we are not accepting international people, but I think that the reason I talked about this particular incubator is because this is a very simple starting point. It is running on a very small level of funding, but because our framework is very clear around what types of technologies to help invest in, we are going deeper into those kind of scientifically vetted technologies. So we know that we're talking about decarbonize, we have to look at technologies that either reduce the embodied carbon or reduce the operational carbon or bring in circularity and recycling. So we know कि हमें कहाँ पे हमें focus करना है और कहाँ पे investments करनी है. So I use that as an illustrative example of something that could be replicated in Pakistan. For example, through USAID or some other investments, it is a model that is easy to replicate, and it will be the most effective if it is done within Pakistan. It doesn't make sense to export your brightest people to a different country, but to really start the germination of this incubation within Pakistan for Pakistan. So I hope that helps to answer your question. Amara ji, should we wrap it up, because I think your next speaker is here?
Yes, thank you so much, Reshma. You have given your time and such a wonderful talk. I'm really grateful for responding to my invitation. And one thing I want to tell to the audience that Reshma is such a nice person and such a lively person. I have been with her during my experience with Techwomen last year, and it is really very, very nice. She's such a wonderful person with a positive energy that you can spend hours with her. So thank you so much, Reshma. Thank you so much for giving your time. I would like to now introduce the second speaker of today's webinar, Professor Dr. Jameel Anwar Chaudhry. Most of the participants might be familiar with him as he is teacher of teachers, and he is currently working as distinguished professor in University of Management and Technology and professor emeritus in University of the Punjab School of Chemistry. So I am also really honored to be his student, and he is basically analytical chemist working on various issues on environment. He has patent to his credit and number of publications, and he has a great or exposure towards different problems that we are facing in Pakistan in terms of administrative roles he have played. He has been the pro vice chancellor in University of the Punjab, and he has been worked as a vice chancellor in Lahore Garrison University. So we are really honored that he is here with us, and we would like you, Dr. Jameel Anwar Chaudhry, sir, please share your screen and give an insight into the climate change and how Pakistan is being affected by this climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amara, for introducing me in so many nice words, which probably I could not use when I introduced myself. Assalamu alaikum, namaste, good afternoon, good evening, good day to everybody who is listening me. I'm really thankful to Dr. Amara that he can you see the screen, please? Hello.
Yes, yes, sir, we can see.
All right. So actually, this climate change, as you know, is a major threat generally to the world and particularly to Pakistan.
Sir, kindly
Um,
switch your presentation mode to slide share.
is it now okay? Hello.
Thank you, sir. It is.
It is now okay. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can see that, sir.
And I hope that you can listen me as well.
Yes, yes, sir.
Right, right. Thank you very much. So I was talking that climate change is a big threat generally to world and particularly to Pakistan. But I'm sorry to say that the awareness, the risk, the I would say uh, eagerness to do something, I can't find in the people, in the students, in the academia, in the industry at Pakistan. So I'm really worried as being a scientist and knowing the thing that the things are going to happen. I will talk about these things, but generally my lecture is was mainly about for students. You might find something very basic about uh, climate change. So I shall discuss them rapidly, that why it is happening, what are the general risks, and then I will go detail what's happening in Pakistan. So I usually start my lecture from the saying of this great physicist of last century, Stephen Hawking, and what he said that life on Earth could be wiped out by a disaster. Hello. And climate change may be the one reason that human being has to, I would say, evacuate this planet. So now, some of us, my students actually don't differentiate between the weather and climate. So first of all, I state that climate is what you expect today and weather is what you get today. So weather is a very short type of phenomena which can change within few minutes or hours, and climate takes too long to change. So what is climate change? Climate change is the long-term shift in weather conditions like temperature, precipitation, winds, or weather patterns. So I don't think there is any need to repeat it. There are certain factors, natural factors also, which can change the climate, like some volcanic activity, some solar output, or some Earth's orbit around the sun. But the impact of all these natural factors is either very short-lived or local, or very little impact in almost very long time. So the present climate change is mainly due to greenhouse effect, as you know, all. Uh, to get the real picture, we have to go back. I think 100 years back, let's say up to 1750, which we mark as the start of industrial revolution. There was a lot of coal, there was a lot of oil, there was a lot of gas underground. It Nobody was aware that these things will come out and they will be burned and they will produce carbon dioxide. Now, at that time, around 1750, the world population was less than a billion. There was no locomotive, no plane, no ship, no mechanized engines, no dynamo, no electricity, no generator. So how the life was, I would say, very simple. So simple that we can't imagine nowadays. So actually, these factors boosted the industrial revolution, especially when the population increased and people need more and more things. So now you can see that the global population in 1750, it was 814 million only. And now it has been crossed 8 billion. So what a drastic change. So at that time, the discovery of coal was not there, underground oil reservoirs, gas reservoirs, but everything was underground. Invention of locomotives, steamships, car engines, airplanes, mechanized engines, they happened. Invention of electricity, especially electric motor and dynamo. So world population was small, as I said, that less than 1 billion. So that was a picture of the world around mid of the 18th century. Then the industrial revolution started. Beginning of fossil fuel start in industry, in machines, in boilers, in planes, in ships, in use the fuel to keep our offices, hotels, houses warm, generate electricity through gas, oil, coal. So oil and coal to run the metallurgical furnaces, all producing billions of tons of carbon dioxide annually, which is enhancing the greenhouse effect. But just look at the production of carbon dioxide in 1750 and 220. It is almost more than double. It was 280 ppm around 1750, and now it has been crossed 422 parts per million. Now look at the rise of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in last year, say from 1960 to 2022. As it was talking in the Reshma's lecture, that there are so many countries which are producing carbon dioxide a lot, like United States, China, Russia, Germany, UK. So you won't see the name of the Pakistan, because Pakistan is producing less than 1% of the carbon dioxide. And so actually, we are not responsible much for the production of carbon dioxide gas. So it is the carbon dioxide gas which is producing greenhouse effect, and I'm not going to waste the time on explaining greenhouse effect, but everybody knows that it is due to the greenhouse gases around the earth, which are not letting the heat going up, and they reflect it back. So these are carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbons, ozone, nitrous oxide, right? Some nitrogen oxides as well. So the other gas is the main culprit is carbon dioxide, because its concentration is increasing day by day. Not other things like chlorofluorocarbons, like ozone, like methane. They are not at that pace. They are increasing, but the carbon dioxide. Now, just for students, the greenhouse effect is, I would say, essential for existing the life on Earth. Because if there would be no greenhouse effect, then all the heat should be exposed to atmosphere, and they are denied. We should go into the negative temperature. But at the same time, greenhouse effect is a blessing. It is, but now what's happening now, that the greenhouse effect is increasing day by day. So the enhanced greenhouse effect is actually problematic. Also, the energy balance is disturbed, causing more and more global warming. So it is true. There is no doubt that our planet is burning. Uh, as I told you, that level of carbon dioxide enhanced from 260 to above 420 ppm. Look at that. Now, the temperature of the Earth, or global temperature, always go parallel. The concentration of carbon dioxide. More carbon dioxide, more temperature. If you go even back 2000 years back, you will find that temperature always go parallel. So the climate data record provides evidence climate change like global land and ocean temperature increases, rising sea levels. These are all the consequences of global temperature and global warming. Ice loss at Earth's pole and mountain glaciers frequently and swiftly changes in extreme weather such as hurricanes, heat waves, wildfires, droughts, floods, precipitation, and cloud and vegetation cover, etc. There is no doubt that global temperature is increasing. We are getting the extreme weathers, extreme summers, extreme winters, and in some parts of the world there are extreme droughts, and that is the reason of so many say wildlife loss. Say at the same time horticulture, same time animals, cows, buffaloes, goats, camels, they die. Floods in various parts of the world, and then glaciers are melting. The life on North Pole, South Pole, wildlife that is being affected. The level of ocean is rising. Even ozone layer has been affected. So these are the effects which we are generally the world is facing: climatic changes, heat waves, water resources, agricultural crops affected, water loss, sea level rise, health problems, air pollution, more heat, more air pollution. More heat, more gases will come up, more smog, energy demand, livestock, forest and wildlife. Tourism is being affected, aquatic life is being affected. The solubility of carbon dioxide in oceans, because oceans are a great sink for carbon dioxide. Now the temperature of ocean is increasing, so less carbon dioxide is being dissolved in the ocean. The rate of precipitation, evaporation increase, ozone layer is being affected. So some general remedies which are always I would say repeated, that we should keep our fossil fuels in the ground, use less and less fossil fuels, and use sustainable energy resources. We switch to sustainable transport. People are trying to go to electric cars. We should keep our homes warmer, cold from natural sources such as solar sources. Restore nature to absorb more carbon dioxide. Protect forests, because again, the plants, the forests, they are the natural sinks to absorb carbon dioxide, to consume carbon dioxide for plants. Protect the oceans, reduce how much people consume, reduce plastic, because plastic is again a major threat. Improve farming and encourage vegetarian diets. At international level, some geoscientists, they're also working on very fantastic ideas. One is the reduce carbon dioxide. Okay, but in some other ideas like inducing artificial rain by cloud seeding, spraying some chemicals like silver iodide, capture of carbon dioxide from air and bury it underground. That is another beautiful idea, but not practiced. That such algae on sea surface that absorb carbon dioxide is another idea. But under amateur trials, artificial trees to absorb and collect carbon dioxide. People are working on that. Use of biofuels in cars and planes which produce less carbon dioxide. That the idea is some progressing, and it is also being used by certain airlines. It's part of their reflection of sunshine by crops and generating genetic engineering. That is also a wonderful idea to produce such crops which should reflect the sunshine and not absorb the sunshine. Because albedo of clouds may be increased by spraying water, more reflecting clouds. So planet should be less hot. Powerhouses in space and transfer of energy each other. Maybe in another 50 years or something like that, this should be possible. Concept of space mirror between the earth and the sun, that is another idea which is being floated. So now I should come towards my homeland, the impact of global climate change on Pakistan. As I told you that Pakistan is one of those countries produce the least amount of carbon dioxide in past 100 years, say, but we are affecting much. So in last couple of decades, there are very clear symptoms that we are the victims of climate change, rising of maximum temperature and heat waves. I belong from Lahore, and Lahore used to be, I would say, not much more than 40, 42 when I used to be a kid. I would say whenever the temperature crossed 42 and people say, oh, lot of heat, lot of hot, and summer is very hot. Now it is very common 45, 46, 48. This is, I'm a witness to that. And sometime in RCB or in Sindh, the temperature crosses to 50 degrees. Urban flooding, fast melting of glaciers and avalanches, water scarcity, variation in weather patterns, extinction of certain species of wildlife, food insecurity, landslides, avalanches, uh, droughts, and cyclones. So these are you can say the consequences, the symptoms which we are facing for last couple of decades. Although governments and people are not, I would say, very much serious still, but I'm quite, as being an old man, I'm witnessing from 1960 onward that the things are changing very rapidly. Now you can see the list of those 10 countries which are being the most affected or will be more affected by climate change, and Pakistan, fortunately, is on number 5. So Pakistan is in the top 10 countries which may be badly affected by climate change. Uh, Pakistan is at the point where any slight increase in temperature will have harsh results to its economy, agriculture, and infrastructure. The moment we have two major problems. When there are floods, when there are, then there is water everywhere. And at other places, when there is water nowhere. So we are experiencing these two general, you see, problems: water everywhere and water nowhere. Floods are, you can say, one of the ways of destruction in our country. And the reasons are we are responsible for that: lack of dams, lack of barrages. No big reservoirs so far have been constructed. So the loss of water in the rainy season and reduction in capacity due to split filling in present dams are making the things worse. The majority of Pakistan's population live along the Indus River, which swells and can flood uh, out during the monsoon seasons. For example, in last year flood, there was a large destruction, large number of casualties, around 15 to 1600 crops and vegetation destroyed in most of the area. Houses collapsed, property damage in private sector, livestock damage about 8 lakh, or you can say, uh, 800,000 cattle have been lost by the people. The loss of infrastructure in public sectors, roads, lines, bridges, loss in trade activities due to limited transportation, academic activities, schools were closed, colleges were closed, markets were closed, outbreaks of diseases like cholera, dengue, malaria. Production export of good was affected, tourism and excursion activities were affected. Still, we could not, I would say, come out from the effects of that flood. The people are still shelterless, lying in lower Punjab and in Sindh. So the estimated loss of about 40 billion has been occurred to Pakistan just due to last floods. And the same was happened in 212 and then back we see in 205. A lot of destruction has occurred. So why it is so? The global warming is making air and sea temperature rise, leading to the poor evaporation. Warmer air can hold moisture, monsoon rainfall. And the second thing is rapid melting and sometimes bursting of glaciers in the northern parts of the country. Now, I think this might be in your knowledge that in northern part of Pakistan, there are almost thousands of glaciers, more than 5,000 glaciers, and according to one count, around 7,000 glaciers are there. Sometimes this part of the world is called the third pole. So our almost groundwater is due to the melting of these glaciers. Now these glaciers are melting very rapidly, far more than their normal speed, and sometimes they burst out due to the uh, high temperature, and that causes flood. So that then has its own calamities, all the houses, the cities, the garages, the bridges, uh, they have been devastated. People get a problem. They have to leave their home. They become shelterless. There are so many reports, international reports. Let's suppose, like German Watch, Pakistan has been ranked globally in the top 10 countries most affected by climate change in the past 20. This is just the loss of revenue with that agency. So the problem is that our economy is mostly depend upon agriculture, and our agriculture depend upon, I would say, weather patterns which were maintained, which were sustained for the centuries. We used to have a heavy rains in Sawan Bhadon, like July, August, and then cold in summer. But now the weather patterns are totally changed. For example, we are passing through this April, May. Last month was April. So this was the month when we used to cut our main crop, that is wheat. Okay. So during the cutting and during the storing of the wheat, we usually don't have too much rains, right? Now there are rain. For example, yesterday we have very heavy rain in Lahore, and same is true for Punjab. So there is no doubt that weather patterns are changing. So by changing the weather pattern, our uh, agriculture is being affected, and due to our agriculture, our economy is being affected. And unfortunately, we are not adapting the new patterns of weather. We should have, I would say, produce some varieties of crops which should be according to the new requirement, new changes, and it should be more resistant. But we are going on the same old pattern. So that's where the loss occurs. Pakistan's average temperature also increasing more than the as experienced by the rest of the world. Uh, Pakistan's average temperatures are expected to rise significantly above the global average by the 2090s, with a projected rise of 1.3 degree to 4.9 degrees centigrade. It increased in from 1986 to 2005 baseline. So these are the expectations. Pakistan is rated 18th out of 191 countries with some of the worst disaster risk rating globally. Water scarcity is another problem. Pakistan has been blessed with a regular agriculture cycle that has sustained its economy through successive crises. However, if the IPCC report is correct, which is almost certainly is that by 2050, the country will be out of water. uh, Pakistan is located at a place on the global which bears the brunt of two major weather systems. One can cause high temperatures and drought, like heat waves in March, and the other brings the monsoon rain. So, shivering effects of climate change in Pakistan, such as the recession of Himalayan glaciers, monsoon rains, extreme events of heat strokes, flood, drought, destruction of irrigation systems, low yield of crops, degradation of ecosystems, and shifting of biomass has been multiplying day by day in Pakistan. Because of the country has a low forest cover, almost it was 4.7% and a high pace of deforestation. Unfortunately, I should must admit that we cannot control our deforestation, which is legally or illegally occurring in the northern areas of Pakistan. We used to go, I will give you an example of Murray. Murray is one of our hill station. People never, I would say, use ceiling fans in Murray. And nobody knew about air conditioning in Murray in 60s or 70s, right? Now, if you go to Murray, and there is a little difference between Lahore and Murray, and people, you will find air conditioning. I would say in Murray as well, Murray hotels and Murray residences, because of deforestation, because the number of trees, the number of plants, huge are trees we used to see around Murray, but now it's very, very the forests are there, but they are very, very thin. So climate change is predicted to have a long-term consequences for the biodiversity, same at the same time, water availability, food security, human health. So our rivers, Punjab was the name of 5 rivers. Uh, uh, Now most of the rivers, especially Ravi and Chenab, they have been dried. You can see the picture. So this is most of the part of the year. The rivers are like that. Very little water actually flows, and there are so many other factors that our neighbor has built so many dams on these rivers, and sometimes uh, she push some water, sometimes she stops. So drought was very common in the lower southern eastern part as well as in the Balochistan. Uh, Increased monsoon availability than expected sometime bring the floods. So severe water stress, food insecurity due to the decreased agriculture and livestock production. So this you can see the uh, picture of deforestation in Pakistan, that we are getting trees less and less by the every passing year. Sindh is the province which is being affected more as compared to already due to its sandy nature and only river Indus there. That is being affected more uh, as compared to rest of the province. Then coastal areas of Karachi, Badin and Thatta have also been threatened because of rising sea levels. Now these areas are just at the almost sea level. So whenever sea level becomes high, there is no water in Badin and Thatta, and that's another you can say threat to these areas by increasing the sea level. Uh, Now coming to the issue that Pakistan is not responsible for producing carbon dioxide, which is actually reason for this climate change and global warming. But we are one of those countries which are being affected, being more. So the other countries are like Maldives and many other island in nation, and they will suffer from consequences of the global warming. However, unlike many countries that have taken up the issue of global emission at the United Nations, Pakistan is not doing even up to its bare minimum level due to certain reasons, which I think our government should do on a priority basis. Our underground water is also based upon the water which is being melted from the glaciers. Our fresh water is totally, uh, we are dependent on that. No other country, I would say, is like that. But if we lose our glaciers, then we shall be very, very acute shortage of our fresh water, underground such water. Yes, I must say that Pakistan government seems singularly unaware of the blooming crisis. It has not been even made much effort to meet its target of producing uh, 60% of its electrical power from renewable sources. Still, we are using oil and gas to produce the electricity, but we should concentrate on sustainable sources such like solar energy. Uh, yeah, the devastating landslides were again another say consequence of that. Just last week we had a huge landslide on in the northern areas, and that affected a lot of people. Some casualties, especially in the area of Koistan and Jaglot. Further north towards Shimshal and eastwards of Skardu Valley, timber mafias are rapidly stripping old growth forests and things like that. So these are all the issues which Pakistan is facing. Now, what is something additional which worries me? Uh, these are the natural issues, these are the global warming issues, these are the climatic issues, which what we are not doing what we should do, lack of awareness and irresponsible attitude of people as well as government, lack of policies and poor implementation. If there is any policy, no implementation, poor governance, poor performance of institutions like disaster management authority. In papers you will find disaster management authority, practically it's nowhere. Lack of coordination with institutions working on climate change mitigation, poor sewerage systems and lack of know-how to use it and keep it running. So, uh, future threats which Pakistan may face in coming time: scarcity of underground water and food, economic stress which is already there, joblessness and poverty, scarcity of sources for power generation, shortage of water in rivers, frequent heat waves, floods, drought cyclones, they will be intensified. Acceleration in deforestation, spreading of infectious diseases, which are already there. Brain drain of talented youth to wealthy countries, that is already being occurred. Every young man or young lady, they are looking go abroad after completing education. That is very, very dangerous. So we should must have some strategies to overcome these problems, like the general public should must be aware of all these threats, policies regarding mitigation and adaptation, toxic emissions should be cut down, use of fossil fuels should be lessened, renewable energy sources should be explored and adopted, water reservoirs and dams should be constructed, good governance should be ensured, houses resistance to climate change should be built, new crop varieties must be explored, which can adapt the challenges of climate change. Indigenous resources, sunshine, wind, hot water springs should be existing water channels should be kept open and cleaned annually. One example is Karachi. Karachi, there were so many good water channels like Liari, like Malair, but those water channels now have been closed, and there are colonies, there are houses inside those water channels. And what happens that when flood comes and water find no ways, then it become a flood, and that destroys the houses. So this is very, very, I would say, a must that water channels should be kept open and cleaned annually. Deforestation should be stopped immediately by power. No new plantation of environmental friendly plants. Young generation at schools, colleges, and university level should be involved. They should be aware. They should be, I would say, told that this thing is happening in their life. Cheap mass transit like metros and local trains should be arranged so that people should avoid their motorbike, they should avoid their own car. Water conservation scheme, uh, construction of water reservoirs, excessive plantation, new, this is almost same. So these were the things which I had to present. Finally, to develop an effective adaptation plan, there is a major need to improve information sharing, education and training, technical and scientific research. In addition to that, there is a need to discover acceptable technologies for adaptation well suited to local, which should that are well suited to local conditions and build on local expertise. At the same time, there is an urgent need of involving all the sectors of life: education, industry, public, students, whatsoever they must be including education, health, agriculture, legislation, talk about a comprehensive plan for a safe and secure Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such
Assalamu
a
alaikum.
talk.
Wa alaikum assalam.
डॉक्टर साहब मैं बात कर सकता हूँ मैं जफर मेरा नाम है मैं
Sure,
जफर डिप्टी डायरेक्टर एनवायरनमेंट
sure.
और डिपार्टमेंट हाइड्रो पावर सेक्टर से मतलब पहले एनवायरमेंटल साइंसेस का ग्रेजुएट हूँ
कहाँ पे आप काम कर रहे हैं? Where you are working?
सर मैं गवर्नमेंट ऑफ केपी का एक है एनर्जी एंड पावर डिपार्टमेंट है
KP, पेशावर में है? You are in पेशावर?
जी पेशावर में हूँ
Yeah, please.
और सर पीएचडी का स्टूडेंट भी हूँ और साथ में मतलब जॉब है और हाइड्रो पावर सेक्टर के साथ तो क्लाइमेट और इन चीजों के साथ डॉक्टर साहब पहले तो ये है कि एकेडमिकली ये बहुत जबरदस्त और मतलब बहुत अच्छा इंफॉर्मेटिव वेल प्लान्ड और जबरदस्त लेक्चर था थैंक यू वेरी मच
Thank you very much.
डॉक्टर साहब मतलब मुझे इसके स्कोप का आइडिया नहीं है कि जाहिर बात है आपकी इंट्रोडक्शन में भी ये हुआ कि आपका ताल्लुक एकेडमिया से है और उससे है लेकिन मेरे कुछ क्वेश्चन थे जो प्रैक्टिकल उस हवाले से थी तो अगर आप अलाउ करें तो मैं
Sure. Come out. Yeah,
हमारी
we have been gathered here for the same thing.
थैंक यू डॉक्टर
हमें
साहब
इकट्ठे इसीलिए हुए।
वैसे डॉक्टर साहब द होल लेक्चर वाज अ कंप्लीट सुपर डुपर जबरदस्त था A1 था उसमें डेटा के हवाले से और बड़े अच्छे तरीके से आपने किया डॉक्टर साहब एक तो मैं थोड़ा सा जो इंडिसीज और ऑलरेडी आपको भी पता है कि फेडरल लेवल पे और प्रोविंशियल लेवल पे हमारी क्लाइमेट चेंज पॉलिसीज ऑलरेडी है ठीक है डॉक्टर साहब असल में एक तो ये जब आप डेटा शेयर कर रहे थे तो कहीं पे जो कुछ सोर्सेज में हम मतलब बीइंग अ स्टूडेंट या मतलब इस प्रोफेशन के साथ रिलेवेंसी के हवाले से मतलब इसके जो सोर्सेज ऑफ डेटा थी डेटा आपने काफ़ी अच्छा कि कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड टेम्परेचर ग्लोबल टेम्परेचर और इसकी जो अपडेटेड सिचुएशन थी ना तो इसका थोड़ा सा अगर सोर्स पता चले तो मतलब हम खुद से उसको कर लेते क्योंकि स्लाइड पे शायद वो मिसिंग था या शायद मेरे सामने स्क्रीन पे वो नहीं आ रहा था तो
नहीं मैंने वो आई मस्ट टेल यू यानी पाकिस्तान के हवाले से जो डाटा इन फिगर्स है ना लेट्स सपोज एग्रीकल्चर ये वो इसमें नहीं है ठीक है मैं सिर्फ व्हाट आई वांट टू मेक क्लियर इज दैट पाकिस्तान पहले 4-5 मुल्कों में है जो सबसे ज्यादा अफेक्ट होने जा रहे हैं या अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं ठीक है अच्छा अब इसके जो क्राइन हैं जो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस हैं वो हम पिछले 2 दहाइयों में 2000 से लेके 2022 तक जो है वो देख रहे हैं मैं आई मस्ट टेल यू मैंने आई एम क्वाइट ओल्ड पर्सन मैंने 50 साल पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी में गुजारे हैं तो मैंने खुद जब से होश संभाला है टेम्परेचर राइज और ये फ्लड लेवल्स और इस किस्म की चीजें जो 2 दहाइयों में हम देख रहे हैं वो पहले नहीं थे
ایگزیکٹلی سر.
تو
اصل میں
ہاں تو
سر اصل میں جو یہ والا ایرا ہے ریسرچ اور سائنس کا، تو اس میں بیسیکلی یہ چیزیں پرسنل آبزرویشن یہ بڑی زبردست چیزیں ہوتی ہے، بٹ جو کرنٹ گلوبل وائز آپ نے فگر اور فیکٹس اور ریسرچ کے ساتھ مطلب آرگو کرنا ہوتا ہے، کیونکہ میں پریکٹیکلی اس میں انوالو ہوں انڈیسیز اور کاربن کریڈٹ کے حوالے سے نا، تو اس لیے مطلب فارمیشن جس طرح 1.3 سے 4.9 تک جا رہی ہے یا پسٹائن اس کا یہ تھا نا، تو آئی وڈ بی ویری ہیپی اگر مجھے اس کے سورس کا کوئی آرٹیکل یا کوئی اس پہ ریسرچ
اوکے
یا
اوکے
کوئی
آئی
ویب
ول
سائٹ
لیٹ
ہو.
یو نو
تو ڈاکٹر صاحب آپ مطلب میرا اس میں نمبر بھی ہے، آپ اس گروپ میں شیئر کریں کائنڈلی، ٹھیک ہے،
آپ
تاکہ ہم اس کو کر دیں.
یو کین انڈیویجولی کانٹیکٹ می. آپ ویسے مثلا لیٹس سپوز اس میں
ڈاکٹر صاحب آپ اپنا ذرا نمبر دے دیں تو آئی وڈ لائک ٹو کنٹیکٹ یو.
شور آپ میرا نمبر نوٹ کر لیں 0322
0322
888
111
888
888 سوری اوکے 888
1951
1951
51. I repeat it for you 0322 888 1951.
اوکے ڈاکٹر صاحب. ڈاکٹر جمیل صاحب.
ڈاکٹر جمیل انور، یہ میں پنجاب یونیورسٹی میں بھی ہوں ایز اے پروفیسر ایمریٹس، اور ادھر یو ایم ٹی میں بھی ہوں ایز اے ڈسٹنگوشڈ.
اچھا ڈاکٹر صاحب ایک اور اپنی انڈرسٹینڈنگ کے لیے اور آپ سے گائیڈنس لینے کے لیے، ڈاکٹر صاحب بیسیکلی جو پالیسیز ہیں یہ اکیڈمکلی اس میں جتنی ساری چیزیں تھی گورنمنٹ واقعی اس میں کافی سیریس ہیں. مطلب ہم اگر اپنے پروونس کے حوالے سے دیکھ لیں تو کافی اس کے جو ایل امپیکٹس ہیں اور یہ ساری چیزیں ہو رہی ہیں، تو کافی مطلب پہلے سے اویئرنیس کے حوالے سے میں بتاؤں کہ ایٹ لیسٹ جو گورنمنٹ سیکٹر کے اوپر پہلے سے کہیں زیادہ مطلب اویئرنیس، اور گورنمنٹ کافی سیریس بھی ہے کہ اس چیزوں میں انڈیسیز ڈیولپ ہو گئی ہیں، کلائمیٹ چینج پالیسیز ڈیولپ ہیں، آلدو کی امپرومنٹ کی کافی زیادہ ضرورت ہے. اب اس میں ڈاکٹر صاحب یہ ہے نا کہ پالیسیز ہیں میٹیگیٹو اڈاپٹیو، سارے پروجیکٹس اور ساری چیزیں ڈیزائن ہو گئی ہیں. ڈاکٹر صاحب اس میں دو چیزوں میں مجھے تھوڑی سی گائیڈنس چاہیے ہوں گی. ایک تو کلائمیٹ چینج، انڈیسیز اور گرین ہاؤس گیسز کے حوالے سے نا، مطلب صرف پاکستان میں ایک ہی ادارہ تھا اور اس کا میں گلوبل کلائمیٹ مانیٹرنگ سینٹر تھا کہ مطلب ایک گورنمنٹ کا انیشیٹو تھا، لیکن اور وہ مانیٹر کر رہے تھے پاکستان کے لیول پہ جو گرین ہاؤس گیسز اور یہ ساری چیزیں. وہ بھی چونکہ پروجیکٹ بیس تھا تو جو ہی اس کی فنڈنگ ختم ہو گئی تو وہ چیز بھی ختم ہو گئی ہے. اب ان کے ویب سائٹ پہ کچھ نہ کچھ ڈیٹا تو ہے لیکن مطلب اپڈیٹڈ چیزیں نہیں ہیں. تو ڈاکٹر صاحب ایک تو یہ ہے کہ مطلب کلائمیٹ چینج اور ان چیزوں کو مانیٹر کرنے کے لیے ریسرچ اور اس کے حوالے سے مطلب اگر کوئی آپ کے پاس کہ کیا ہو رہا ہے اور مطلب کہاں سے ہم انفارمیشن کے حوالے سے، اور ایسا کوئی سجیشن گورنمنٹ کے لیول پہ کہ کوئی اس طرح کا کوئی پرماننٹ کوئی سیٹ اپ ہو کہ مطلب یہ مانیٹرنگ کریں اس کی جو جیز ہیں انڈیسیز کی پلاننگ کے حوالے سے، اور مطلب ایسا کوئی انیشیٹو یا کوئی بھی کسی بھی پارٹیسپینٹ کے نالج میں ہو تو کائنڈلی وہ شیئر کرے. تو ریسرچ اینڈ ڈیٹا کی اتھینٹسٹی اور وہ کافی چیلنجنگ اور امپورٹنٹ ہے، اس پہ کچھ سٹیپ اگر ہیں تو ہمارے ساتھ شیئر کر دیں. دوسرا جو سر اس کی جو پالیسیز تو ہیں، پروجیکٹس بھی ہیں میٹیگیشن اور اس کے حوالے سے ریٹن میں کافی ساری چیزیں ہیں. ان چیزوں کو کرنے کے لیے انفارچونیٹلی فنڈنگ ایک ایسی چیز ہے کہ مطلب وہ ایک ریئلٹی ہے کہ پاکستان کے پاس اتنے ریسورسز تو ہیں نہیں. ہم اپنی لیول پہ ڈفرینٹ کچھ پروپوزلز اور یہ ہو کہیں KFU کو یا کسی ڈونر ایجنسی کو تو کرتے ہیں، لیکن وہ بھی بڑا مطلب ایک اس کا سکوپ کافی کم ہوتا ہے، اور ایک چھوٹی سی ایکٹیویٹی جس طرح مطلب سمندر میں تھوڑے سے 1 لیٹر پانی کے برابر ہوتا ہے جو کہ امپیکٹ کو سارے کو میرے خیال میں نہیں لے سکا. تو اس طرح کوئی فیڈرل لیول پہ یا پروونشل لیول پہ یا آپ کوئی سجیسٹ کرتے ہیں کہ کس طرح کوئی ایسا کوئی سینٹرلائزڈ یا؟
اچھا میں آپ کو بتاتا ہوں ڈاکٹر صاحب، یور نیم از علی خان؟
ظفر علی سر.
ظفر علی صاحب. دیکھیں آپ بھی اس ملک میں رہتے ہیں، میں بھی اس ملک میں رہتا ہوں،
جی سر.
ٹھیک ہے. ہمارا ملک کاغذوں میں پالیسی بنانے میں، محکمے کھڑے کرنے میں بہت آگے ہے. بہت
جی
جلدی یہاں پالیسیاں بن جاتی ہیں، سب کچھ ہو جاتا ہے. لیکن جب وقت آتا ہے، جب ہم دیکھتے ہیں کہ وہ پالیسی کہیں امپلیمنٹ ہو رہی ہے یا نہیں ہو رہی، تو ہمیں کچھ نظر. ٹھیک ہے. تو میں
جی
اس بحث میں نہیں پڑھنا چاہتا، میں صرف وہ چیزیں آپ کو بتانا چاہتا ہوں کہ جو ہم کر سکتے ہیں یا جو ہمیں فوری طور پہ کرنی چاہیے.
ٹھیک ہے
ٹھیک
ڈاکٹر
ہے.
صاحب. جی
انڈیویجول لیول پہ بھی، گورنمنٹ لیول پہ. مثلاً ہمارے پاس پانی کی بڑی ایکیوٹ شارٹیج ہونے جا رہی ہے. آپ نے یہ ریسنٹلی سنا ہوگا،
بالکل
یہ وہ
ڈاکٹر صاحب.
جنوبی افریقہ کا وہ جو شہر تھا، وہاں وہ پانی ٹوٹلی ختم ہو گیا. ختم ہو گیا. ہم سے دے آر امپورٹنگ واٹر. ٹھیک ہے. خدا
ایگزیکٹلی.
نہ کرے ہمارے یہاں جس طرح سے پاپولیشن جو ہے وہ بڑھ رہی ہے، اگر پانی جو ہے وہ نہ ملے. ابھی تو
جی
خدا کا شکر ہے کہ ہمارے شہروں کے انڈر گراؤنڈ واٹر جو ہے، ریزروائر جو ہیں، وہ اتنے وہ نہیں ختم ہوئے. لیکن اگر پانی نہ ملے تو یہاں پہ آپ لائف جو ہے وہ ایکسپیکٹ کر سکتے. تو یہاں ڈیم بننے چاہیے، یہاں ریزروائر بننے چاہیے، یہاں واٹر چینلز کو کلین کرنا چاہیے، نہروں کو کلین کرنا چاہیے، اینولی کلین کرنا. میں اسکولوں میں بچوں کو یہ پڑھانا چاہیے کہ اس سبجیکٹ کی افادیت، اس کی اہمیت جو ہے وہ کیا ہے. میں اکثر کلاس میں، یہ میرے اگر کوئی اسٹوڈنٹ بیٹھے ہوں تو وہ سن رہے ہوں، میں ایک مثال دیتا ہوں، جسٹ ون ایگزامپل.
اوکے ڈاکٹر صاحب.
آپ ہر طرف ہمارے دیکھتے ہیں کہ وہ پولیتھین بیگ جو ہے ان کا ایک گند پڑا ہوا ہے. جہاں کوڑا ہے وہاں 80% وہ پولیتھین بیگ. ایسے ہی ہے نا؟
جی 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 بالکل ڈاکٹر صاحب.
اچھا. اب ہم کیا کرتے ہیں، ہم سے وین وی گو ٹو اے شاپ، وہ ہمیں کوئی ٹوتھ پیسٹ دے رہا ہے، کوئی دوائی دے رہا ہے، تو وہ بیگ میں ڈال کے دے رہا ہے. میں پرسنلی آئی ریفیوز ٹو ٹیک دی شاپر، آئی ریفیوز ٹو ٹیک دی پولیتھین بیگ. جسٹ میں وہ
ایگزیکٹلی اپریشیبل
پکڑ کے
ڈاکٹر صاحب.
دوائی پکڑ کے جیب میں ڈال کے گاڑی میں رکھ کے تو گھر آ جاتا ہوں. دیکھیں، وی آر اس وقت ہم 22 کروڑ لوگ ہیں. 22 کروڑ لوگ اگر ایک دن میں صرف ایک شاپر کو ریفیوز کر دیں تو 22 کروڑ شاپنگ بیگ اس دن پاکستان کی گلیوں میں نہیں آئیں گے.
جی جی بالکل ڈاکٹر صاحب.
یہ ہمیں اپنے بچوں کو، یہ ہمیں اپنے اسکولوں میں، یہ ہمیں اپنی یونیورسٹیوں میں بتانا چاہیے. بچے جو ہیں وہ سیکھتے ہیں لیکن انہیں کوئی بتاتا ہی نہیں ہے. ہم رہتے ہیں پالیسیوں میں، ہم رہتے ہیں کاغذوں میں. یہ پالیسی بن گئی، یہ ادارہ بن گیا، یہ ڈائریکٹر لگ گیا، یہ ڈپٹی ڈائریکٹر لگ گیا، یہ اسسٹنٹ ڈائریکٹر لگ گیا. اور وہ جو بنتے ہیں، سوری ٹو سے، ہم سے اس وقت فارن اسپیکر بھی سن رہے ہوں گے، آڈینس بھی سن رہے ہوں گے، لیکن جو اس وقت صورتحال یہاں ہے کہ ہم جو پریکٹیکل چیزیں کرنی چاہیے ہمیں، وہ نہیں ہم کرتے. کاربن ایمیشن، کاربن تو ہم پروڈیوس ہی اتنے نہیں کر رہے. ٹھیک ہے، ہمیں سولر پینل جو ہے، مثلا میں ایک اور مثال آپ کو دیتا ہوں. یہ جتنی بڑی بڑی جو کالونیز ہیں، بیریا ٹاؤن ہے، داؤد وہ ڈی ایچ اے ہے، ہر شہر میں ہے، کراچی میں ہے، لاہور میں ہے، پشاور میں ہے، ڈی ایچ اے ہے، بیریا ٹاؤن ہے، اور بہت بڑی بڑی کالونی ہے. دے شوڈ میک مینڈیٹری کہ جو ایک کنال کا گھر بنائے، 10 مرلے کا گھر بنائے، اپنے اوپر وہ سولر پینل لگائے، اپنی بجلی
ہاں
خود
10
پیدا کرے.
kV 12 kV وہ مینڈیٹری ہوں اسی
وہ
طرح کی.
جہاں 3 کروڑ کا جو گھر بنائے گا، وہ 30 لاکھ کا سولر پینل بھی لگوا لے گا، اور وہ
لگوا
جو
سکتا
بجلی
ہے.
بچے گی وہ آپ انڈسٹری کو دیں. وائی
جی
ڈونٹ
ڈاکٹر.
یو سے میک سچ پالیسی؟ اس طرح کی پالیسیاں آپ کیوں نہیں بناتے؟
بالکل ڈاکٹر صاحب.
یعنی
یہ
یعنی
کافی
ہمیں جو کام ہمارے کرنے والے ہیں، ہمیں کالجوں میں، یونیورسٹیوں میں، ایگریکلچر یونیورسٹی ہے، وہ سارا کام چھوڑ کے انہیں نیو کراپ ویرائٹیز پہ جانا چاہیے. جو دیکھیں، کلائمیٹ چینج کو ہم روک نہیں سکتے، ہم ختم نہیں کر سکتے اس کو.
ہاں سر. یہ
ہم 2 کام کر سکتے ہیں. ایک، اس کو کم کر سکتے ہیں، اس کے افیکٹ کو کم کر سکتے ہیں.
بالکل
اس کے افیکٹ کو کم کر سکتے ہیں،
تھرو
اور اس کے لیے
ایڈاپٹیو میئرز ڈاکٹر صاحب اس طرح سے. بالکل
اڈیپٹیشن جو ہے وہ کریٹ کر سکتے ہیں.
بالکل سر. بالکل.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a detailed response. We have other two participants who want to ask question. Vakar, you can ask question, and then Kamal, it's your turn for asking the question.
Uh, well, actually, I don't have any question right now, but I want to have some value added, some points that I want to add here on this forum. I think this is a right forum where I can also share these points.
Sure.
Actually मैं जो हूँ पाकिस्तान विंड कॉरिडोर झंपीर में जॉब करता हूँ और एक्चुअली हमारा तो है तो एज अ रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी विंड टरबाइंस हैं जिनसे हम जनरेशन करते हैं इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की, लेकिन ये कि एज सच हमारा यहाँ पे कोई भी इम्पैक्ट नहीं है हमारे प्रोजेक्ट का एयर पॉल्यूशन पे। इन स्पाइट ऑफ इट हम जो है यहाँ पे सर जमील ने जैसे काफ़ी पॉइंट्स यहाँ पे हमें बताई कि काफ़ी चीज़ें डॉक्यूमेंटेशन की हद तक होती हैं या पॉलिसीज या प्रोसीजर बनते हैं लेकिन उनकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन नहीं होती। तो यहाँ पे यूजुअली जो हमारे प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं वो इंटरनेशनल प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, IFC फंडेड प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, वर्ल्ड बैंक के प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं। तो यहाँ पे काफ़ी हद तक चीज़ों की इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हो रही है और काफ़ी चीज़ें जो है वो शायद डॉक्यूमेंटेशन की हद तक हैं, जैसे सर जमील ने कहा। तो उसमें इन्वायरमेंट के हवाले से जो हम यहाँ पे जो वर्किंग कर रहे हैं उसमें एक तो कुछ चीज़ें जो हैं हम एयर पॉल्यूशन हो गई, नॉइस मॉनिटरिंग हो गई, ये चीज़ें यहाँ पे कर रहे हैं और हम मॉनिटर भी करते हैं चीज़ें जो हैं डेली बेसिस पे। और उसके अलावा बर्ड मॉनिटरिंग या बायोडाइवर्सिटी पे भी हम काम कर रहे हैं। बर्ड मॉनिटरिंग पे जो है PCFM पोस्ट कंस्ट्रक्शन फैटलिटी मॉनिटरिंग प्रोग्राम कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि बर्ड्स की हिटिंग का जो इंसिडेंट है वो टरबाइन साइड पे होती हैं चीजें। तो उसके बाद जी
प्लीज कंटिन्यू डॉक्टर वकार साहब।
तो उसके हवाले से भी जो है वो हम चीजें कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे विंड टरबाइंस पे जो बर्ड्स की हिटिंग होती है या इंपॉर्टेंट स्पीशीज होती हैं या उनकी थ्रेशोल्ड जो भी क्रॉस होती हैं, जो भी चीजें हैं वो भी उसकी वर्किंग कर रहे हैं। तो उसके अलावा बायोडाइवर्सिटी हो गया हमारा, बायोडाइवर्सिटी पे प्लांटेशन हो गई, क्योंकि ड्यूरिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन फेज जब विंड टरबाइन लगते हैं तो एक तो डिजाइनिंग फेज होता है प्रोजेक्ट का, उसके बाद में नेक्स्ट स्टेप होता है वो कंस्ट्रक्शन का फेज होता है प्रोजेक्ट का। तो कंस्ट्रक्शन के फेज में जो बायोडाइवर्सिटी जो भी डिस्टर्ब होती है प्रोजेक्ट एरिया में ड्यूरिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन, तो उस हवाले से उसकी रिस्टोरेशन के हवाले से भी वर्किंग कर रहे हैं हम। और जो प्लांट्स हैं, प्लांटेशन है या स्पेशली जो गूगल प्लांट है उसके हवाले से उसकी कल्टीवेशन, उसकी ग्रोथ के लिए भी हम वर्किंग कर रहे हैं हमारे उसमें प्रोजेक्ट एरिया में। तो ये चीज़ें हैं और उसके अलावा जो भी इन्वायरमेंटल टेस्टिंग है, जो भी चीज़ें हैं या सीपा की जो NEQs हैं या SCQs हैं, जो भी वो चीज़ें हम कंप्लाई कर रहे हैं हमारे प्रोजेक्ट एरिया में। तो ये काफ़ी चीज़ें हैं क्योंकि यहाँ पे इंटरनेशनल फंडेड प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं जो भी हैं तकरीबन विंड कॉरिडोर में, तो उस हवाले से काफ़ी इन्वायरमेंट की कंप्लायंसेस हम कर रहे हैं। तो ये चीज़ें थी जो मैं ऐड करना चाह रहा था। दैट्स इट, थैंक यू सो मच।
ये डॉक्टर साहब, लेट मी से वकार कादिर साहब, दैट्स एक्सीलेंट। मैं इस चीज को मानता हूँ। मैं सॉरी, आई एम सॉरी टू से, मैं जब बात करता हूँ मैं थोड़ा सा ज्यादा वो क्या नाम है, पेसिमिस्टिक हो जाता हूं। लेकिन हमारे मुल्क में बहुत सारी जगहों पे बहुत सारी अच्छी चीजें हो रही हैं, लेकिन दो चीजें हैं। एक तो जहाँ जहाँ अच्छा काम हो रहा है उनके अंदर कोऑर्डिनेशन नहीं। नंबर टू, उनकी जो है ना, मतलब एक तरह का यानी अवेयरनेस नहीं है। अगर सिंध में हो रहा है, यानी ये आपके जो वो हैं विंड प्रोजेक्ट्स, ये वो चक्कियां जो देखी हैं मैंने, विंड टरबाइंस, ये मैं खुद गया हूँ कराची से जामशोरो तक, एंड आई हैव सीन ऑन राइट हैंड साइड एंड लेफ्ट हैंड साइड, एंड दे आर वर्किंग राइट। तो एक तो इस तरह की चीजें जो है ना, उनको थोड़ा सा एडवर्टाइज करना चाहिए, मुल्क के अंदर ही कम से कम बताना चाहिए, कोई टीवी पे प्रोग्राम हो, कोई अखबारों में आए कि ये काम जो है वो हो रहा है। एक पाकिस्तान में आपको लाखों लोग ऐसे मिलेंगे जो कहेंगे जी नहीं जी, पाकिस्तान में तो कहीं कोई विंड टरबाइन लगी नहीं, राइट। तो ऐसी चीजों को प्लीज थोड़ा सा हाईलाइट किया करें, टीवी पे आया करें, अखबारों में दिया करें, अपनी चीजों को दुनिया को बताया करें। आई नो चीजें हैं, बहुत अच्छी चीजें हो रही हैं, बहुत अच्छा काम आप कर रहे हैं। दूसरी बात यह है कि हमें अपनी प्रायोरिटीज जो है ना वो सिलेक्ट करनी चाहिए। मसलन ये अब कार्बन को रोकना जो है ना, ये उस दुनिया का काम है जिसने ये इतनी कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड जो है वो फैलाई, जिसके पास इतने जहाज हैं, जिनके पास इतनी इंडस्ट्री है, जिनके पास इतने शिप्स। ठीक है, हमें जिन चीजों पे फोकस करना चाहिए कि हम अपने जो आने वाले 10 साल हैं अपनी बिजली कैसे प्रोड्यूस करेंगे। इंडिया में दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा सोलर वो उन्होंने लगाया है, जिसमें 1 करोड़ पैनल जो है वो लगे हुए, 1 करोड़, ठीक है। तो ये अगर आपने वाटर टरबाइन वो विंड टरबाइन बनाया, बहुत अच्छा किया। इस तरह के टरबाइन आप जाल फैला दें सिंध में, वाटर, ये जो आपकी वो विंड टनल है, और ये तो हिस्टोरिकल विंड टनल है। आप हैदराबाद की 100 साल पुरानी तस्वीरें देखें, उन्होंने मकानों के ऊपर कराची से आने वाली विंड कैच करने के लिए ऐसे वो बनाए होते थे बड़े बड़े फ्रेम्स, और उनके जरिए, वो पाइपों के जरिए विंड जो थी वो अंदर मकानों के अंदर लाई जाती थी और वो मकानों को ठंडा रखती थी। ये हैदराबाद की आप कोई 100-150 साल पुरानी तस्वीरें देखें, अदरवाइज आई कैन सेंड यू। ये उस वक्त की टेक्नोलॉजी की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ। तो हम अब हमारे पास पूरा 1000 मील एक मकरान का साहिल है, हमारे पास पूरी ये विंड चैनल है। कराची से लेके हैदराबाद तक जो है वो हवा जो है वो चलती है। Why can't we take use from that?
Yes, you are very right, sir.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
I was also going to say that Dr. Bushra is waiting for long to ask some question and add her points for the discussion. Please, Dr. Bushra.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर जमील अनवर साहब। आपके सामने बोलना तो यूं है जैसे कि क्या करना है, लेकिन जैसे हमारा निकाह,
ऐसी भी बात नहीं है, आई एम नॉट सो हॉरिबल।
आपका बहुत
जी जी,
शुक्रिया।
वेलकम।
आपकी नॉलेज, आपके इल्म का अहाता, आपकी रिसर्च, वो मैचलेस है सर। लेकिन जैसे कि आपकी शॉपिंग बैग वाली बात एक ऐसी है जिसको मैं जहाँ हूँ मैं इसको जरूर कोट करती हूँ कि अगर हम एक शॉपिंग बैग भी यूज करेंगे तो हम कितने अपनी मेरीन लाइफ को शॉपिंग बैगों से एक दिन के अंदर भिजा सकते हैं। ये सारे इनिशिएटिव हैं। जैसे इन साहब ने एक विंड टरबाइन बनाई, आपने बहुत अच्छे से ऑल्टरनेटिव एनर्जी पे, न्यू क्रॉप पे, हर इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे तो सर सारे लोग काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जो हमारा लॉ है उसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन और उसकी इन्फोर्समेंट बहुत जरूरी है। जब तक लोगों को, जैसे आपने अभी एक बहुत अच्छा मशवरा दिया कि जो इतने कनाल का या इतने मरले का घर बनाएगा वो अपने लिए सोलर पैनल लगाएगा, ये पॉलिसी कौन बनाएगा सर? पॉलिसी तो बन जाती है, पॉलिसी की इम्प्लीमेंटेशन हम लोग तो एकेडमिशियन है, आप सिखाते हैं, हम सीखते हैं, हम बात को आगे लेके जाते हैं। बात तो उनकी है जिन्होंने इसको पूरा करना है और लोगों की वेलफेयर के लिए लेके आना है।
Dr. Bushra, I would like to ask one other person. I think he is Zahid Iqbal sir.
Thank you very much. I am Zahid Iqbal. I am teaching in University of Education Township. अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि बहुत सारी अच्छी चीजें हो रही हैं। जैसे जिम्मेदारों को पहले अंदाजा नहीं था, लेकिन अब जिम्मेदार बड़ा क्लियरली कहते हैं कि स्मोक से पहले जो फसल पकती है उसका टेस्ट क्या है और उसकी यील्ड जो है वो बेहतर है एज कंपेयर टू दो क्रॉप्स और यील्ड जो बाद में स्मोक के आती हैं। इसी तरह अब हम अगर एफ्लुएंस जो हैं इंडस्ट्री से बाहर आ रहे हैं तो हम देखते हैं कि वजह से कोई एक्वेटिक लाइफ को डिस्टर्बेंस होती है, कोई मछलियां मरती हैं, तो वो मीडिया में आ जाता है, बहुत हाईलाइट किया जाता है उसको। और अल्लाह का शुक्र है हम लोग जो ये सेमिनार वेबिनार करवाते हैं इसकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन और पॉजिटिव रिजल्ट्स आ रहे हैं। और मजीद हम नो डाउट कि पॉलिसीज हैं उनकी इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में थोड़ा कहते हैं कि सुस्ती या काहली है ड्यू टू वन रीजन और द अदर, लेकिन चीजें आहिस्ता आहिस्ता बेहतर हो रही हैं। आई एम थैंकफुल टू डॉक्टर जमील साहब, हमारा साहिबा, बुशरा साहिबा, कि ऐसे वेबिनार कंडक्ट करना और पब्लिक को अवेयरनेस देना। अगर हमें कुछ पता होगा तो हम स्टूडेंट को बताएंगे, स्टूडेंट अपनी फैमिली को बताएंगे और इस तरह से चीजें आगे चलती जाएंगी। तो एक वक्त आएगा कि पब्लिक खड़ी हो जाएगी कि आप जो एफिलियंस आ रहा है इस फैक्ट्री से, टैनरी से, ये कसूर से, सियालकोट से, ये बहुत अच्छा है कि हम लेदर एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उसके साथ हम अपनी वाइल्ड लाइफ को या एक्वेटिक लाइफ को तबाह कर रहे हैं। तो पब्लिक एकदम इकट्ठी हो जाएगी, खड़ी हो जाएगी, रेजिस्ट करेगी कि आप इसको पहले फिल्टर करें, ट्रीट करें, फिर इसको आने दें। तो ये बहुत अच्छे रिजल्ट्स हैं इसके, अल्लाह का शुक्र है। सब ने अच्छी पार्टिसिपेशन की, सब ने अच्छे कमेंट्स दिए। तो मेरी ये कमेंट्स है कि इंशाल्लाह चीजें बेहतर से बेहतर हो रही हैं और मजीद हमें सेंसिटाइज करना चाहिए हुकूमत को, गवर्नमेंट को, पॉलिसी मेकर्स को और ऐसे लोगों को जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में है वो इसको बेहतर से बेहतर करें और इंशाल्लाह बेहतर से बेहतर होगा और चीजें बेहतर हो रही हैं इंशाल्लाह और मजीद बेहतर होंगी। Thank you very much.
मैं यहाँ एक और बात ऐड करना चाहूंगी। ये जो डॉक्टर जाहिद इकबाल साहब हैं, ये खुद में एक बहुत बड़े रिसोर्स पर्सन हैं। ये रिटायर्ड डायरेक्टर वाइल्ड लाइफ हैं। इनके पास अंधाधुंध नॉलेज है वाइल्ड लाइफ का, बायोडाइवर्सिटी का, एनवायरनमेंट का। बहुत सारी इन्होंने फिल्म रिकॉर्ड कराई है, तो ये तो खुद से एक बहुत बड़ा रिसोर्स है हमारे पास यहाँ पे।
थैंक यू जाहिद साहब, जाहिद इकबाल साहब, बहुत शुक्रिया आपका वैल्यूएबल कमेंट्स ऐड करने का। बिफोर आई आस्क डॉक्टर बुशरा फॉर द क्लोजिंग रिमार्क्स, आई वुड लाइक टू ऐड हियर दैट वी टॉक अबाउट क्लाइमेट
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
we talk about climate change, we say that Pakistan is not adding that much carbon dioxide. These are the theoretical or practical realities we have on record. But being the resident of this globe, we need to make it sure कि जैसे अहमद फराज ने कहा कि अपने हिस्से की शम्मा जलाते जाएं, तो आप यूं करें कि जो भी अवेयरनेस आपको है तो वो अवेयरनेस का फायदा नहीं until and unless you come out of the box, और आप उस अवेयरनेस को दूसरे लोगों तक पहुंचाएं। जब हम ये सोच लेते हैं कि what I have to do with it, अगर किसी ने गंद फैलाया है बाहर तो ये उसकी हेडेक है, वो उठाए। सो हम कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्रोड्यूस नहीं कर रहे, लेकिन हम जितना सॉलिड वेस्ट प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं डायरेक्टली और इनडायरेक्टली, वी आर एडिंग टू द ग्लोबल पोल्यूशन एंड ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस। सो अपना रोल प्ले करने के लिए इट इज रिक्वायर्ड कि आप you take the responsibility, you take the ownership of being the resident of this globe, and you play your own role. So I will request Dr. Bushra for the closing remarks, and I would like to thank Techwomen Team Pakistan for cohort 2022 and IWISTER for organizing such a knowledgeful webinar. Over to you, Dr. Bushra.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amara. Indeed, no doubt it was a best webinar. हम लोगों ने अपनी तरफ से कोशिश की, और जिसके अंदर सबसे एक्टिव जो रोल रहा वो आपका डॉक्टर अमारा डार। आप वो हमारे लिए, मैं तो कहूँगी आप वो अजीम औरतें हैं जो यूएस गई, हमें जाके इंट्रोड्यूस कराया और हमारी टेक वुमन का एजाज जीत के लेकर आई। और मैं बहुत थैंकफुल हूँ डॉक्टर रेशमा सिंह साहिबा की और अपने बहुत ही रिस्पेक्टेबल प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर जमीर अनवर साहब की, कि वो आए और उन्होंने हमारे साथ अपनी लाइफ लॉन्ग एक्सपीरियंसेस को शेयर किया। और मैं जो कंक्लूड सिर्फ यही करूंगी कि आप देखिए कि जब मिस रेशमा ने अपनी टॉक को स्टार्ट किया तो उन्होंने कहा द वर्ड पाकिस्तान केम फ्रॉम प्योरिटी, सफाई। तो अगर हम अपने इस पाक को पाक नहीं रखेंगे तो बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा। यकीनन हर एक को अपना अपना रोल अदा करना है, और हमें तो हमारे दीन ने सिखाया। और इसका सबसे इजीएस्ट जो वे है वो है मॉडरेशन, जो हमारे ना रवि, जैसे हम खवातीन हैं, रोज यूनिवर्सिटी जाएंगे तो हम कहेंगे कपड़े ही नहीं है, कपड़े नहीं है, और अगर अलमारी को खोलेंगे तो कपड़े आके हमारे ऊपर गिर जाएंगे, बंद नहीं होगी। और इस वक्त सबसे ज्यादा इन्वायरमेंटल पोल्यूशन ये फैब्रिक इंडस्ट्री कर रही है, इस तमाम डिजाइनर्स कर रहे हैं। आप देखें दिन बाय दिन हमारे शहर में 5 स्टार होटल्स की तरह डायग्नोस्टिक लैब बढ़ती जा रही है, जैसे कि कोई होटल ग्रो करे। इसका मतलब है बीमारी और डिजीज दिन बाय दिन बढ़ती जा रही है। और जब तक हम इस एनवायरनमेंट को प्योर नहीं करेंगे और अपने आप को वापस अपने पास्ट वे पे और पास्ट कल्चर पे लेकर नहीं जाएंगे, इस बात को इख्तियार नहीं करेंगे, हम फंसते ही जाएंगे, हम बेहतर नहीं होंगे। इसके साथ मैं आप सबका शुक्रिया अदा करती हूँ। आप सबकी आमद का बहुत शुक्रिया। मुझे उम्मीद है आप सब तमाम रजिस्टर्ड पार्टिसिपेंट्स को कुछ दिनों के अंदर
Thank you very much, Dr. Bushra.
Thank you so much for all the to all the participants and the speakers and all the organizers. It's really a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you.